Kiana.
You always have to ruin it.
I know. I'm sorry.
Brandon literally had to text me before he turned us back on because I was singing along.
I was doing it too, but I was like, just be prepared.
I was prepared. I was paying attention. So what are we doing today?
Well, we're going to discuss dart frogs because I don't think we've done an amphibian episode yet.
I don't think we've done any amphibian episodes at all.
Yeah, so all the people who like amphibians have been missing out. So this doesn't cover them all, but it covers a large portion of what a lot of people keep and the great things about dart frogs. So,
and little geckos.
Yeah, they do have little cute micro geckos, I think they were.
They got all kinds of neat stuff.
Yeah, they got lots of cool stuff.
My size of geckos.
Yeah, that's true. Micro geckos.
Yep. So. Yeah, they have micro geckos. Mine aren't quite micro geckos, though.
They're close.
Well, let's introduce our guests so I can stop guessing.
Yeah, and we can ask some questions, and people can actually find out what they want to hear.
All right, do your thing.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Welcome, Lucas and Dawn of Jungle Jewel Exotics.
How you doing?
Not too bad. I'm sharing.
Me too.
I hope all the groups get double spammed. Y'all are gonna learn today.
Yeah, because as much as I actually talk to Lucas on a monthly basis, I know very little about dart frogs.
Well, we're going to change some of that this morning.
Yeah, I think my only exposure to dart frogs is when I pass the Jungle Jewel Exotics booth at expos. I always stop and look because they're stunning looking and they're really, really captivating. And you guys also build custom enclosures that are absolutely stunning as well. So your booth is always eye candy for me.
Well, thank you.
So if you haven't ventured into dart frogs, why is that?
They seem high maintenance. Or
you know what?
Not necessarily the animals.
Yeah.
The initial setup seems kind of high maintenance. And then you have to maintain your live plants and stuff like that, and it's just something I'd pay you guys to do.
Is it a little bit more than keeping a ball python in a tub? Absolutely. Right?
I don't like ball pythons.
You got 25 of them at your house.
Just because they're in my house doesn't mean they're mine. I'd rather have a boyfriend with ball pythons than a boyfriend scared of snakes.
True enough.
Can starting a live vivarium seem intimidating at first? Yes, it can. But we're able to do a few different things. We're able to provide folks in Calgary a turnkey setup where the tank is completely set up with all the background in place, the live plants ready to go, your springtails and isopods for a bioactive enclosure, lights, misting system, and everything, including the frogs or geckos, and you're successful right out of the gates. Or if you want to tackle this yourself and you want to build the enclosure, we can ship all that Canada-wide.
Oh, so almost like a total kit.
Yes. Yeah.
That's
So,
kind of handy.
I also want to disband the idea that they're high maintenance, because honestly, once it's set up, it is probably one of the lowest maintenance pets that you can keep. They're actually very, very easy to keep if you keep them in the right environment, and the plants will flourish very, very well.
Well, and when you have them set up properly, if you have pairs, they just kind of naturally breed in the enclosure as well, don't they?
They're actually very, very well suited to captivity, and they do breed very readily in captivity as well.
That's always good for someone that's a little more advanced, wanting to get into something like that.
And because of that, they're also extremely rewarding. That's one of the neatest things about dart frogs is how easily they breed. And a lot of them actually will raise their own babies. So you don't have to do anything with some of the species. You simply feed the frogs, and once in a while you have a baby appear. It's so neat.
Just a little bonus animal all of a sudden.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's fantastic. I like it when that happens.
Right.
I ended up with a pair of Pac-Man frogs, and they both ended up being morphs. So I was kind of looking into breeding them and stuff, and it was like, you have to make a rain chamber, and you have to do this, and you have to make sure they don't eat each other. And it's like, never mind.
Yeah, you had one Pac-Man, you add another Pac-Man, you end up with one Pac-Man.
Yeah.
Awesome.
That was essentially what I learned. And my girl is she is large and in charge. Her name should be like Brunhilde or like Gertrude or something like that. But it's Hypnotoad.
A widowmaker.
She would be. She's a garbage disposal. I love her. She's fantastic.
Cool.
It's like, oh, one of the baby snakes didn't eat. Here you go.
Right.
Yeah. That's just nature right there. That's good.
Well, I'd rather feed it to another animal than put it in the garbage.
Yeah,
for sure.
So, I think most keepers are like that. Even with even with animals they produce, if they're born defective or anything like that, can't lead a normal life. Most of them would rather feed it to something else than just chuck their deformed babies in the garbage.
I fed off a deformed animal that didn't hatch out yesterday, so
yeah.
Instead of turning into some sort of waste elsewhere, I turn it into energy by feeding another animal.
Yeah, in nature, predators would take out the sick and deformed very fast. So.
Oh yeah.
I'm just trying to share this, guys. Please excuse me for a minute. I'm in too many groups.
So you've seen some of our frogs.
Yes, I have.
What did you find was the most captivating about it? What drew you to the booth to say, wow?
It's the colors. And they're so vivid and bold, and just the contrasting colors on one animal, there's yellow ones and they have like black legs or something like that. They're like half black, half yellow. I like those ones, and the ones that look like Spider-Man that are blue and red.
So blue and red, the little guys the size of your thumbnail?
Yeah.
Those would be the Benedicta.
If I got into dart frogs, it'd be one of those two, I think.
So interestingly about the colors of dart frogs, they are warning colors in the wild, because some of these, almost all of the dendrobates, which are what the dart frogs are called, they almost all have some toxicity or noxious flavor to them in the wild. But interestingly, when they're kept in captivity, they have no toxicity because they get that, it's believed, from what they eat in the wild. They don't have the same food in the wild in captivity, so they don't develop any of that toxicity in captivity. So they're completely safe for everybody.
I mean, I still wouldn't go around licking frogs.
No, never a good idea. And they make wonderful calls.
Yeah, I don't know if you guys are able to pick that up, but we're starting to get some of the calls around.
I did hear that. So with some of the prey items that they eat in the wild, would it be some of the plant matter that the insects are eating that would cause them to be poisonous? Because that would start digesting through the insects and then the
That's
frogs
what
feed
it's
them.
believed to be. So the plants have alkaloids within them, and the bugs eat the plants that have the alkaloids. And somehow in the digestive system of the frog, they convert the alkaloids into toxins that they produce on their skin.
Yeah, and then when they're threatened or eaten, the toxins are released, and they're actually going to the prey or to the predator. They're either going to taste really, really bad or going to make you feel really, really sick. And in extreme cases, it is possible to kill the predator. But unfortunately, when that happens, neither species lives on, and nobody learns a lesson there. So in the wild, it's advantageous to taste bad, but not kill your predator, so that they never eat you again. There's actually an insect that lives all over North America, actually all over the world. It's a bright red color with some black spots on it. You would let your children play with it in a heartbeat because they're really cute. And that would be the ladybug. However, they are fairly toxic. They actually have glands on their elbows that excrete a toxin when threatened. And if they're crawling on your hand and it looks like they actually just peed on you, it's actually not any urine. It is a toxin. And if you lick it, it's very, very bitter. So if I was a bird or a gecko or any other animal trying to eat a ladybug, I'm going to want to spit that out because it tastes really bad.
Yeah.
The frogs do the same thing.
Yep.
Yeah.
That's very interesting. Sometimes it might not necessarily kill the predator, but it might also make them feel sick too. So.
Yeah, most of the time it doesn't kill the predator.
Yeah. So while technically in the wild some of these frogs are poisonous, that just means they taste bad.
Interesting. I thought they were just poisonous because they would kill the predator.
Now there are a couple species that in the wild, if you eat it, you're probably gonna die. Those would be the Phyllobates species. There's only 5 frogs in that family, with the most toxic being the Terribilis. And it has enough toxin on it to potentially kill, on paper, because it's never been proven, but on paper they can technically kill about 5.
And that is the frog that gave them their poison dart frog name. The Phyllobates terribilis is the one that they use, the Colombian Indians use to tip their darts with.
Yeah.
And the process in order to get the toxins out of the frog to poison their darts is extremely, it's basically, it kills the frog. So it's pretty sad, to be honest, but it's what people have done to survive in the wild.
It's part of how we evolved as a species, technically.
Yeah.
Also, with the small amount of tribes that do it, they're probably not decimating the
they have very little
frog species.
in the wild populations.
Not compared to where people decimate land for farming and housing and stuff like that too. So they're doing less harm to the environment than what most everybody else is.
And deforestation is a huge threat to all of the species of obviously any animals in South America, and including the dart frogs as well. It's frightening the rate at which deforestation by humans is being done in South America. It is frightening, and it's something that sorry, go ahead.
Oh, I was just agreeing with you. That's all.
Yep. To give you an example of that, if you wanted to check it on your own, just how devastating we are to the planet, go to not Google Maps, but Google Earth, and check out Borneo, and go back several years, probably about 10, 15 years, and zoom right in, and you'll see these lush rainforests everywhere. And then slowly advance through time and take a look at what we've done. We've replaced these pristine primary rainforests with monoculture crops, palm oil, which unfortunately is the native species just cannot live in there. So we're hearing this with the plight with the orangutans. There's only a few left on Borneo, and they're going to be going extinct fairly soon. But that's the big fauna. We've also got all the little stuff like all the different reptiles and amphibians that are living there that just no longer live on Borneo.
Yeah,
I'm trying to figure out how to change the year. I'm doing what you said.
Okay, yeah.
Okay, I'm gonna zoom out.
So you zoom out and everything looks green, like it looks lush and wonderful because it is a tropical place. But start zooming in and then you start seeing these green rows of these plantations.
Yeah, they're just like, hang on, I can actually share it with everybody.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, we have a thing.
Screen share.
Yeah.
Totally forgot about that feature.
There.
So when is this?
I have no idea. This is just what popped up, but it's Borneo.
Okay. Are you able to zoom in live?
Yeah.
So what you're seeing is all these roads that are going all over the place. Those are the roads to be able to get to the trees for palm oil. And you're looking, you can see all the trees planted there in perfect rows for quick and easy harvesting.
And is this what the frogs are naturally residing in?
Unfortunately, no. Nothing really lives in those type of forests.
So this is just like essentially farmland, basically.
Yep.
Yeah.
That's their wheat fields in Borneo.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's what's replaced the rainforest.
And not just Borneo, right? We hear like 2019 and 2020, the rainforest on fire, the Amazon is on fire and burning in massive amounts. And that's the government's looking at it going, you know what? Let's make some money off of it. And it's no different than what North Americans did as well to the native grasslands. We tore out all of the native grasslands and made wheat crops and corn crops and got to feed everybody. And Brazil and Peru and Colombia, they're all looking at this going, how can we make money off of this too?
Yeah.
So palm oil grows very, very well there. Soy, which is another huge cash crop right now, that's being grown. Yeah, corn.
Yeah.
And of course, beef in all these different tropical places.
So a couple things one simple thing that is actually relatively good to do that everybody can do to help this problem and to make the demand for such products less is when you buy prepared foods, look at the ingredient list. If there's anything that says palm oil on it, avoid buying that particular product.
Or palm kernel oil. That's one I see all the time.
Yeah.
And it's in almost everything.
Oh
it's really hard to find stuff that doesn't have it in it.
Carnauba wax used for making candies. That's palm oil. There's about 13 different synonym names that you can use for palm oil. And Google it. There's a website right now. It's 11 or 13 names for palm oil that you might not know, and what will show up as an ingredient.
Yeah.
That's insane. See, I was looking into doing some like soap making and stuff like that, and you have to go and get all your like Latin names for it to put on the label, and there's a million different names for everything.
Yep.
So you really have to know like all the different variations that something gets called to like really be able to read your label. And with makeup, you don't want something with alcohol in it, but do you know how many different variations they write for alcohol? So you would have no idea what you were looking at. It's their way to trick you.
Yeah, a lot of makeup, a lot of lipstick, lots of palm oil in it.
Ooh, yeah, lots of wax and stuff, I bet.
So, yeah.
Ethically sourced products.
So any questions yet? Does anybody have any questions?
Actually, Lem did.
Good morning, Lem.
How many species of dart frogs are I think that's supposed to say there, not there.
Are there? Yeah. There is well over.
Brandon, stop touching.
Easily well over 250 different species of dart frogs, or anything that would be considered a dart.
And then you can break those species down into different morphs. So you can have a frog that has completely different coloration, but is the same species as another dart frog that looks totally different, but is in a different locale. So it's really interesting how the same species can look totally different colors from one location to another.
Yep.
So Are
Sorry?
they true morphs, or are they locality based color variations?
They are locality based. Yeah. So an
Okay.
example of that would be the Dendrobates tinctorius azuris, which is the blue dart frog that everybody loves, and
Yep.
that's the first one people recognize. But
Yep.
then you've also got Tinctorius cobalt, Tinctorius oyapok, Tinctorius citronellas, lafumes. There's so many. Patricias.
And they keep finding new locales all the time, which is good and bad. They're finding them because they're cutting down the rainforest.
Yep.
But they keep finding new colorations and new variations of the same species in different locales.
Do you guys work strictly with South American species?
For the most part, currently, yes.
At least for the frogs.
Yeah.
Although our cinnamons are Asian.
Yeah, and we used to work with some Malagasy species. We had
Leaf frogs.
yeah, and then we also had Vietnamese mossy frogs for a while there.
Yeah.
I really like the mossy frogs.
Yeah, that's so cool.
They're pretty cool. Have
They
you had
are.
them before?
No, I've seen them at, I think, maybe your booth and maybe Tyrone's.
Maybe, yeah.
But I don't know, they're always really eye-catching because like they're so visually textured and just kind of a different looking animal. That's
And
usually what
amazing camouflage. That's an amazing example of camouflage.
good luck finding that.
Right? They
Well,
actually have a wonderful call. They sound like owls.
See,
Sad little owls.
Yeah.
that's what I really like about frogs is how they call. I don't have any that like to call, but when you go out for a walk at night, stuff like that near the lake in town, using quotations for that, the frogs sound beautiful. They sound absolutely beautiful. So it's just, chorus frogs, wood frogs, stuff like that are native species, but frogs are amazing. And they sound so wonderful. Like, when you get a couple of them really talking to each other, it's really, really nice and peaceful. And
Yeah.
your house must get loud at night.
Actually, go ahead.
There you go. There's one calling right now. Most of the species we have are actually diurnal, so they're awake during the day and sleep at night, so they don't disturb us.
Oh, so I guess that works pretty well then.
Yeah.
It is. It's pretty cool. Yeah.
But all tree frogs are nocturnal, so they're going to be awake at night and sleep during the day.
So we actually have two choruses here because we do work with a few species of tree frogs. So our tree frogs are making noise at night, and our dart frogs are during the day.
So there's always singing.
Yeah.
Yep. And what we've done as well is in our room that we house the nocturnal species, we've adjusted the light cycle in that room so that they're not calling during the deepest of night, and we're not hearing it because that's directly underneath where our bedroom is. That would definitely come at night. So we try to have them so that they're awake during the day, but that's their night by keeping the room dark.
So you just inverted your light cycle essentially.
Correct. And do that gradually so it isn't a shock to the frogs. When we first started doing that, it took many months to be able to change that cycle.
We've been learning a lot about that this summer, haven't we?
Yeah.
We were talking to, who was it? Kai Fan. He breeds mangrove monitors down in California, but because he has so many monitors and he's in California, he has to switch his light cycle. So he essentially doesn't cook his animals during the day.
Makes sense.
Yeah, yep. because your outside temperature spikes are going to affect your inside temperature spikes.
Yep.
Especially when you're adding heat as well. So
yep.
What kind of heating do dart frogs need? Do they? See, I know zero. Absolutely
Actually,
zero.
Dart frogs thrive in an environment that we are comfortable in. So they don't need any special heating. Generally, their ideal temperature is anywhere from about 18 degrees Celsius up to about 28 degrees Celsius. That's their ideal temperature. So if you and I are comfortable, the dart frogs are.
So that's generally in the range most people keep their houses at.
Exactly.
Yep.
Pretty much anywhere you are. Now, if you do live in an apartment or you're keeping your frogs on a main level of house and you don't have air conditioning, a house can get 35, 40 degrees Celsius in the summer. And that
I know.
could be disastrous for your frogs.
In which case, you want to make arrangements to prevent that from happening to your dart frogs in the summertime, perhaps if the temperatures get too hot.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Whether it's installing a small room air conditioner, there's ways where you can actually sweat your tank, and by keeping it the outside of the tank wet and using a fan, you can actually evaporate some of the heat.
So it draws the moisture out of the enclosure through the glass, or not the moisture, but the heat.
Correct. Yeah. And another thing that a person can do is they can actually take a pop bottle, whether it's a 2-liter pop bottle or otherwise, fill it half full of water, freeze that, and then when needed to, in those emergency heat wave days where they've lost power, say in Toronto, they lose power all the time because of the heat waves, everybody's running their air conditioners. They could quickly throw that into a tank just to help emergency cool it down. But do monitor that temperature so it doesn't get too cold.
People do that with axolotls. They'll float frozen 2 liters in the water because they're from axolotls are from a glacier-fed lake in Mexico, which sounds kind of like an oxymoron, but yeah, they are indeed from a glacier-fed lake, so they are a cold water-dwelling species, and it can get definitely toasty up here during the summer. So, and it's learning what you have to do to take care of your animal.
Yeah, and conversely, things can get pretty cool. Say during the spring and the fall when you haven't turned on or off your furnace yet, if it's dipping below 68 Fahrenheit or 15 degrees in your home, I mean, that's pretty cool for us, and that's also pretty cool for the animal. And if you're putting the tank in the basement where it's always going to be cold and not getting as much heat, then you can install, say, an under tank heater, either on the side of the tank or even on the bottom of the tank, just to help elevate that temperature just by a few degrees.
That's my plan for the Pac-Mans this year, just to put a small heat pad on the side for just in case. Last year our furnace crapped the bed twice and our pipes froze twice.
Wow.
I'm not sure if you guys saw my video, but my hot water tank exploded last week. So, I just rather be prepared for all situations. So I have extra space heaters. This is slowly turning into my reptile room. So I have a space heater in here. We have another one downstairs for just in case. And it's all just to keep all the animals comfortable, because last year, the only thing up here in this room was my ASFs, and I maybe forgot.
Oh, no.
And they maybe got too cold.
Gotcha.
So I learned my lesson, and there is now always a space heater in this room for just in case.
Yeah. Well, and we did that as well, just like with all the extra precautions, and then took it one step further, and we got a large enough generator that we could run all the lights if needed be in the house.
Oh, that'd be fantastic.
That's my next goal in case there's a big power outage in wintertime for however long. Having a generator that's large enough to heat my snakes and run some space heaters if I need to. Yeah. I mean, if something major happens and the city loses power for a few days, that could spell complete disaster for all of our animals. Absolutely. And that's something people need to think about, is any sort of emergency, whether it's a fire, a flood, or a loss of power during any type of season. Yeah. Hurricane season down in the States, right? If you're in Florida, you don't have to worry about freezing to death, but you do have to worry about power outages, it getting too hot, and of course the major storms. Yeah. Yeah, I had a couple of friends out in Louisiana, and they didn't have power for like a week or two or however long it was. And it gets really hot in Louisiana, so they had to move some of their animals to friends' places where they had power so that they could keep their animals cool enough.
We actually have a question here.
Yeah, go ahead.
I really like the soft buzzing call. Please excuse me butchering these names. Of the Borgia Ridge. Can you recommend another dart frog with a similar softer call other than the tinks? Would like to house them in a group if possible. Gotcha. So Tracy, when you're saying as a group, are you talking each individual species by themselves or combined as a group and multiple species? Ooh, that's a good question.
And I'll go ahead and answer that part of the question first. Do not mix the species. That could spell disaster for both species. But if you're looking to house them individually as groups, that'd be phenomenal. As for small frogs with a soft call like that,
another really nice thumbnail dart frog that has a wonderful call is anybody in the imitator group. So they're not as quiet as the Borgia Ridge. They're a little bit louder, but they have a nice trilling sound. Like there was one just calling a minute ago. But they're very, very nice. They have a huge variety of colorations because they're called imitators because they imitate other types of dart frogs in the same locale as they are located. They're also one of the species of dart frogs which raise their own babies. So imitators have a lot going for them. They're good in groups too.
But if that's too loud and you want something quieter, like a soft buzz, your Benedicta, so the Randomea benedicta species, that has a small buzz sound.
And the Fantasticus.
Fantasticus species, pretty much everybody. Fantastic.
Yeah.
Who else? Vanzolini?
No, Vanzos are imitators.
Oh, right.
Yeah.
Or same style.
Yes. Yeah.
I'm trying to think of who else is quiet. The Reticula?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, retics are quiet. Of course, if you're looking for a quieter call, not a thumbnail dart frog, but a larger dart frog that does have a very quiet call is the Tinctoris. You can barely hear their call, to be honest. They're a big frog, like some of them are up to 2.5 to 3 inches, and you can hardly hear their call at all. So if you're looking for something that's not going to be disturbing with their call, the Tinctoris are also another large group of frogs that is very quiet.
Yep. And if you want something in between the thumbnail and the Tinctoris species, you could look at the Aratus.
Yeah.
They have a very quiet call too, and lots of colors.
Yeah. And one thing that I've noticed with the Aratus is a lot of people think that they're quite shy, but once you leave them in their environment and have them in an area of your house that's active, they're actually very bold. And I think that's something, some people believe that dart frogs are shy and you never get to see them, but I think that has a couple things to play on there. One thing is the location of the house is actually really important. If it's in an area of the house where people don't normally congregate and there's not much activity, if there is activity in that area, of course they're going to run away and be shy because that's not normal. But if you keep their environment where there is a lot of activity in the house, this is normal for the frogs, and they're going to be out and about when you are around as well, because that's normal. So, if you're keeping a shy species of frog, keep the tank in an area which is active. It just seems to help a little bit.
Yeah, I mean, your home is now the jungle, so if it's quiet all the time, if you've ever been to the jungle's actually quite loud. There's lots of noise going on from birds, crickets, frogs, everything making noise. But the jungle goes deathly quiet when there's a major predator around. And when that happens, all the species run and hide. Well, that happens in your home too. So if the kids are running around playing, laughing, everybody's talking, the TV's on, you're going to start hearing the frogs. The entire time we've been talking, I don't know if you can hear, but there's a lot of sounds going on in the background. If we go quiet, they'll go quiet because there's potentially a predator in the room. And when you creep up on that glass and you want to look inside, you're the predator.
Yep, you definitely are. Sorry. I asked this question before my internet decided to kick me off the chat. And now I don't remember it. Oh, can you cohab different species of dart frogs?
So, very tricky question, and I'm going to start off with an easy no.
No.
Don't do it. But can it be done? Yes. So, if you have no idea what you're doing, and this is your first time doing it, or you've only had a couple species of frogs, just don't do it. You're not benefiting either species, and that's what we have to look at. Are you looking to just house multiple animals in a tank for your enjoyment, or is this for their benefit? And that's what you need to look at. But if you had a big enough tank, say no less than 36 inches wide, 36 inches tall, and you combine the right species in the right number, could they cohab together and be peaceful? Yes, that can be done, but not recommended. because if something goes terribly wrong, they start being aggressive towards each other, or somebody starts getting sick, or somebody gets picked on. You need to have a plan B, C, or D to pull them out of the tank and have a new forever home for them. And most people just
aren't prepared for that.
Yeah.
Another thing about mixing species and morphs within the same tank, because dart frogs are so well suited to captivity and they do breed very readily, and within the hobby, it's highly frowned upon, and it's never recommended to mix breedings of different morphs. And a lot of the dart frogs will interbreed, and then you don't know what you've got for babies. So that's another big no-no with dart frogs, is mixing species and allowing them to breed together. That's been another big problem too.
No hybridization.
Yeah, that was my next thing. Now, I don't mean this in a negative way at all, but it seems that dart frog keeping is more of a purist kind of thing. You don't want to be mixing your localities. You don't want to be hybridizing, that kind of stuff. You want to keep everything nice and pristine.
Yeah, and try to keep your bloodlines as clean as you can. Now, that's for a multitude of different reasons. Most people, well, okay, so let's back up here. Going back to the rainforests at the beginning of the episode, we were talking about how the rainforests were being destroyed. There's a lot of people out there saying, hey, keep the animals in the wild. That's where they belong. They're not wrong, but unfortunately, there's no wild left for these guys.
Yeah, the wild's disappearing.
We've been in rainforest in Peru, checked out a species of frog, it was a fantastic species, and then we got word just a couple months later that entire area was burned out. So all the species of animals we saw, gone, lost to time forever. So are breeders going to breed these animals and be able to release them back to the wild? Probably not. That's not going to happen, right? But we have seen what's happened, what people have done to dogs, cats, geckos, snakes, where we have a lot of sickly animals because we've been breeding them down to get these beautiful colors we want. With frogs, there's no need to do that. They already have these bright, beautiful. Why hybridize? Why
you don't have to mess with anything because it's already so visually striking.
Yep. But
there's nothing to improve upon.
There isn't. The other thing is that there's so little bloodlines available in captivity that if we start messing with the genetics, there is no going back. We can't get back to the pure form, right?
That brings me to one of my questions is interbreeding, because frog populations are usually probably pretty small in the wild. I'm not 100% sure on that. So is there a lot of genetic defects if the gene pool is really small?
It can happen. In theory, on paper, you can potentially line breed to about 6 or 7 generations before you get into some really, really massive deformations and just no good eggs or no good tadpoles out of it. But you really don't want to get down that far, right? You want to try to keep as close to wild caught as possibly can. So we're always trying to bring in new blood from either different people or different countries if we can, and try to keep a captive population as healthy as we possibly can.
Now, that being said, that does become difficult bringing dart frogs in from other countries because they are so heavily threatened in the wild. They are actually covered under CITES. So bringing dart frogs into the country from other countries because it becomes difficult and expensive. But like Lucas is saying, it's quite important. And we personally, within our own collection, attempt to maintain genetic diversity by trying to keep different lines separate unless we want to increase the genetics. So yeah.
The other thing we've done is we've also tried to source out all our adult frogs or our future breeding frogs from captive bred sources. So actually, I don't think we have any wild caught. No, you're right. We have 0 wild caught right now.
Never mind. I won't ask my next question.
That's not true. Our cinnamons were wild caught.
This is true. Yeah. Were they wild?
The adults that we had started with, yes. Yep.
Okay. So, and sometimes it's okay, but sometimes it's not. Well, why don't you ask your question anyways?
Do people commonly import wild caught dart frogs. Understanding that they could be CITES 2 or CITES 1. Well,
So
not
most of these
CITES 1,
are CITES 2, right? So CITES 1 you cannot trade internationally.
No border hopping.
Correct. But CITES 2, with the right permutation, you can do it. Do people export from the countries legally using CITES paperwork? Yes, there are people that do that. However, there's also a huge amount of people that are trading these animals on the black market. Yeah. Unfortunately, when we were in Peru, we were approached by several locals. Once they asked, "What are you doing here? Why are you in the jungle? Why are you on these trails? I'm a big fat white guy walking around in South America. I stand out like a sore thumb." They want to know, what am I doing there? And once they found out we were interested in looking for frogs, we were asking, where are the frogs? He's like, oh yeah, give me a couple sole and I'll go catch you the frog. Which tells me that others have been there before us, offering them cheap amounts of money. But 3 sole in Peru works out to $1 American. If I give 3 sole to a native and he goes catches the frog for me, now I can try to export this thing to different parts of the world. There must be a lot of that, because they were very quick to start asking us, oh, let me go catch the frogs.
Well,
sorry, go ahead.
People in countries like that, they're just trying to make a buck to feed their family generally.
You're right. It's not their fault, right? It is people that came before, whether it's Europeans or North Americans or otherwise. They're going down there and trying to exploit the wild, and that's wrong.
Yeah, it's definitely us, not them. Like you said, exploiting a situation and trying to take advantage of it, and that's really unfortunate. But I hope they feed their families.
Well, that actually brings up an interesting subject in how important and how effective ecotourism is on native environments and protecting these animals in the wild, because it actually is massive and very, very important and extremely effective. Look at, for example, the African savanna. The only places that are protected are the places where people go to view the animals. And look at mountain gorillas. They have survived pretty much exclusively because people have wanted to come and see them. And the same thing happens in South America in the jungles. Yeah,
we see countries like Costa Rica several years ago, probably 20 years ago, 30, 40 years ago. It was heavily deforested, and a lot of the primary rainforest was eliminated. And it was afterwards they realized that that's a problem, because they're having issues with the landscape. But then they also went, well, now there's no more money, right? It became a problem when a dead tree was worth more than a tree that's alive. So what they did is they started putting value on live trees. They started replanting the forest. The forests are coming back. And tourism. Costa Rica is a hotspot for tourism, but we want to see it wild, which is very important. You're talking about the families being able to feed their families in South America. So if we can make it so that they can profit, they can make money off live trees, then they'll want to protect it as well. Which is why we actually work with an organization in that's fighting to save the primary rainforest. They're called Save the Choco, and what they do is they actually purchase carefully selected wild rainforest. Because I don't know if you know it or not, but the rainforest is up for sale, and corporations and people can buy it. Anybody can buy parts of the rainforest
for any purpose.
Yeah, it doesn't matter. So I can go down to Ecuador and purchase a hectare of land for $500 US. That's it. Super cheap.
That is cheap.
Yeah. And if I want to burn it down and put palm forest in there, I can. If I want to put soy in there, I can. If I want to just leave it there and not touch anything, we can do that as well. Problem being is that you need to buy a large enough reserve that people aren't just coming in and cutting down the trees anyway, which means you also need to employ rangers to keep others out and protect the rainforest. And that's what Save the Choco does. It's more than just buying the land and preserving the trees. It's also employing people, paying them a fair wage to protect the rainforest and help teach others as well that the rainforest is.
Well, I think education is key to moving forward with animals, no matter whether you're a captive keeper or, someone collecting these animals in the wild to sell to some white guy, I think as long as we continue educating people and explaining that, hey, if you want to keep doing things the way that you need to do, you gotta think smarter about it. And hey, if you set up a reserve, you need to protect it so that you can keep using these resources continually.
Yeah.
It's
And,
just,
What
it's
was
just
that?
finding, it's just about finding alternatives for the native people that live there and work there to gain money instead of exploiting the environment all the time.
I'm sure it could be more profitable to have a regular full-time job as a ranger isn't quite the right word. Someone patrolling these reserves. I'm sure you would make more money working, your everyday job as someone protecting this land than you would just grabbing here's a frog for my 3 pesos or whatever it was.
Yeah. But you have to not just employ 1 or 2 people, you have to employ entire villages.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Make more money on our side.
Well, also, if you're protecting large amounts of land, you're going to need lots of people to do that, because if you have one person protecting 300 hectares of land, that's not going to work.
No, and you're doing this in second world and third world countries where it doesn't matter, man. There's lots of corruption there. Governments are corrupt, people are corrupt, organizations are corrupt. In Colombia and Ecuador, cocaine runs rampant, so you have to be super careful as well. Your park rangers can get shot and killed and lost in the forest forever because somebody decided that's the area they want to grow their cocaine plantation.
Who were we just talking to about that?
Wasn't it Jonathan? We were talking.
I think it was Jonathan, but he was saying, like, yeah, you can go buy land, but like you can't touch it because all the drug lords run it.
Yeah,
You own it on paper, but the cartel's the one on the land, and good luck getting them off.
Yeah, I listened to a podcast about that too, where some biologists wanted to go out there and track chytrid and also different native species and stuff like that. But they don't want to.
I'm wearing my chytrid shirt.
They just didn't want to send people.
There's a fungus among us.
Oh, no.
They just didn't want to send people out there because they don't want their biologists and the people studying all this stuff to get shot and killed because they accidentally came upon some cocaine field. So it's a very touchy subject and hard to control everything. So
when we were in Peru, because we were in northern Peru up by Torapado and Chizuda, but if you went further north, you're neighboring Colombia, and it can get pretty dangerous up there. When we were on some of the game trails, we had to be very careful of traps.
Like,
and they were
traps?
Yeah, booby traps. So poaching is illegal in South America, just like it is in North America. However, nobody's right? They've got other bigger things to worry about. We were in northern part of Peru, and our guide says, hey, you know what, we're going to go into this part here, but everybody grab a really long stick, the longest one that you can carry. We're like, well, okay, why do we want to do that? Well, on the game trails, they set up fishing line across the game trail, and that's hooked up to a makeshift gun. And it's about the level of your knee, which is about the same height as some of the wild game out there. Yeah. And what would happen is the animal would walk across the game trail normally, and it would get shot in its side, and it would die on the trail. Well, unfortunately, as a person walking down that trail, it would take out my leg. And I am easily a 2-hour drive to a nearest hospital in South America if that was to happen. Now, we were fortunate enough not to even trigger a single trap, but our guide said that he has heard them in the area, and we just have to be careful.
Wow. And as someone that's never left the Great White North, that's not even stuff you think about at all.
And
like, me going into the jungle is probably a stupid idea.
We're just a couple white people running around in the jungle, man. It is scary. Like, we were always in danger. Like, I was Ralph Wiggum not knowing how much bigger I am.
I watch like Naked and Afraid all the time because they're put in the jungle and like figure it out, dummy. And I am such a backseat driver. I'm like, no, you gotta do this, do that. I would not survive in the jungle. I would be eaten by a leopard.
Yeah. Well, I'm pretty sure there were leopards watching us, but they're pretty afraid of humans. Yeah.
I like
fun.
the wall being between us at the zoo.
Yeah. We were more afraid of the people than the wild. Right? At least I know that if a leopard comes out, it's going to bare its teeth and going to want to. A person's going to smile at me and try to kill me afterwards.
Yeah. So, how many species of dart frogs do you guys keep?
Right now, we currently have over 55 species. I think
around 55 species of frogs in general. Yeah.
That's a lot more than I thought you guys would have had.
Species and morphs, not necessarily species, but morphs. Yeah.
55 variations of hoppity hoppities.
Yep.
That's quite a few.
Well, we can take you for a tour of all the various frogs here a little bit later. We can answer some more questions for folks.
Yeah, that'd be fantastic. I always want to see more.
Yeah.
Yes.
I've been to their place a couple of times, and it's just there's a lot to take in.
It's a lot to take in, and it's a lot of work to keep these many animals too. Because with frogs, you have to keep them pristine if you want.
Yeah, definitely.
So what's kind of a basic setup for any species of frog? Because I guess it would kind of
an entry level frog. Let's go. Let's go easy.
Yeah.
Cool. So let's talk entry level for a moment here. What people don't understand is that a lot of these frogs will live a long time, 15, 20 years from some of these species. So when we're saying entry level, this is something that's going to be with your life as long as like any cat or dog. So you don't just want to buy the animal. Yeah, or longer. Yeah. But common species like your Tincturus azurus, the brightly colored blue frog. This is what a lot of people will know as the starter frog, only because it's commonly available. It's not any easier to take care of than some of the other species.
That being said, I would say that every dart frog has the same care and maintenance. There really isn't one that is easier to keep. They all require the same care.
Yeah, or very similar.
Yeah.
So for your Tincturus species, you're going to house a pair up to a trio in a minimum size enclosure is going to be an 18-inch cube, which is actually a lot of the tanks that you see behind us. And that's at a bare minimum. Of course, bigger is better. I mean, could you live in a building the size of your bathroom? Yes. Yes, you can. And you could do it for the rest of your life. Your life is just going to be shorter.
Brandon, my bathroom is so small.
But you could live in it.
No, I couldn't.
But and the thing is, as human beings, we also expect that our animals to live in something the size relative to our bathrooms. So you want to go bigger is better.
Yeah, definitely.
Right? This is their forever home, and it is your responsibility as a keeper to build them their best life. But an 18-inch cube is satisfactory for the frogs to live a very healthy, happy, and long-lived life. For your smaller species, your thumbnail species like the Ramphameas, a 12 by 12 by 18. So you're talking a foot wide, foot deep, and a foot and a half tall. Is again satisfactory for them to live in. And that actually you're seeing, I don't know if you can see this on camera. No, they're just out of here, but I've got the 12-12 right beside me.
And with all the setups, is going planted and full background necessary, or is there kind of ways around that? I know that's probably more ideal, so it would be easier on maintenance on the keeper because it would keep humidity and everything else a lot better.
Yes. Could you plant these with fake plants? The answer is yes. But your ideal situation would be a live planted, naturalistic, bioactive vivarium.
Now, sorry, go ahead.
Aren't plants also going to add humidity and stuff like that to your enclosure?
Yes.
And kind of make things a bit easier?
Pardon me?
So just with live plants, and species that require a bit more humidity, it seems like live plants would just kind of go hand in hand with that, and
Not only do they
just
help
naturally
with the humidity-
complement each other.
Yeah, exactly. They'll not only help with humidity, but they also use up nutrients. So you're setting up basically a life cycle in the dart frog environment, and that is the key to making it as low maintenance and easy to keep as it actually is. So basically, the frogs eat the flies. They poop the digested flies out. The springtails and isopods eat the poop as well as the decomposing leaves and all of that kind of matter. Then there's natural fungus and bacteria that will establish in a healthy environment, and they will break down those nutrients further to the point where the plants can use it as nutrients, and the plants will flourish and grow. So you've got this cycle going on in a naturalistic living vivarium that makes it very, very low maintenance and absolutely beautiful and stunning to look at.
Yeah. So for maintenance, we don't have to do much in the tanks themselves. We have to clean the outside of the glass because of our nose prints or the frogs hopping around in the glass. LJ, because there is a lot of humidity in there, LJ wants to flourish in that environment, so you got to scrape that off the inside of the glass. Trim up the plants a little bit, but that's it, right? Feed the frogs daily or every other day, and you're good to go. Very low-key maintenance.
So we're looking at generally on a normal tank, anywhere between half an hour to an hour of maintenance once a month, besides feeding your frogs every other day is what we usually recommend.
I think I got into the wrong animals.
What's that?
I think I got into the wrong animals.
Yeah, no kidding.
And because it's so easy, this is how we're able to maintain so many enclosures easily between the two of us.
Yeah, it's just that initial setup of the time, materials, and everything to do the backgrounds, get everything set up correctly. But in the long run, it's a lot cheaper.
But they do it for you.
I also used to keep reef tanks, and I tell you, this is way cheaper and easier to set up and maintain than any reef tank I've ever worked with.
Right. So I was looking at isopods a while back, and there were some that had "do not use with dart frogs."
Okay.
What?
So
why would that be?
Well, it depends on the species you're looking at. Some of these frogs, species that we have, the Ranocabea reticulata, they're actually right here, right beside me. It's really cool because they're out and courting right now, so I wish I could just turn it and show you. But they are no bigger than the size of my pinky nail. Well, there are isopods that are the size of my entire knuckle there.
I have isopods that big. So would the isopods prey on the frogs then?
It is a potential hazard, yes. When the isopods might be awake at night and the frogs are sleeping at night, they could start to predate on it. If a frog gets a little bit under the weather, feeling a little slow, a little low that day, yeah, it can get predated on.
And that's exactly the same reason why it's not recommended to feed crickets to dart frogs, because crickets are actually quite aggressive and they will eat virtually anything. And larger crickets may chomp on dart frogs at nighttime or when they're not active. So the ideal food for dart frogs is actually fruit flies. Flightless fruit flies is 90% of the dart frog's diet. They will snack on the isopods and springtails in the environment as well, but most of their diet is cultured fruitless or flightless fruit flies that have been dusted with quality vitamin supplements.
I had a bad time with flightless fruit flies a little while ago. I had some baby Strophoris that were, like really, really small, like that big. And so I had them in one of those deli cups. Same size that the fruit flies come in, right? Nice, tall. How do you get the fruit flies in that enclosure without getting them all over?
Tapping. Constantly tapping the container.
Yeah.
Okay, so what I did, I put them in the freezer for like a few, 15 seconds. Just, dumb them down a little bit, right?
Slow them down, right?
Yeah, I tried to tap them. They still got all over my counter. I'm like, stab.
You got to be quick.
Some pro tips. have a spare 32-ounce container off to the side, put a little bit of calcium or vitamin supplements in there, slowly tap your flies into that empty culture, swirl them around, and then they can't climb up the sides. And then slowly tap that into the enclosure you want to.
Oh my god!
See, you should have just asked the professionals.
Well, I was asking people that like worked at Pisces and stuff like that, and they're like, I don't know. It's like,
Ask the right people.
yeah, now I know. And you know,
we feed millions of fruit flies a week. We kind of know how to handle them.
Duly noted. Because you know, not this season, but next season, I'm hoping to have some more. Well, have some Stropherus babies, and what else am I gonna feed them? I live in I live beside a cowboy college. What kind of bugs do you think I can get here in town?
Well, we do ship our flightless fruit flies can be shipped anywhere in Canada throughout the year. We can ship them in wintertime. It's a little bit more difficult and a little bit more costly, but it definitely is a possibility. So we can get you flightless fruit flies anytime, anywhere in the country.
Brandon, please deliver me fruit flies from Lucas and Dawn.
And we do also sell every stage of flightless fruit flies as well, from freshly started to fully popping cultures as well. And we always have that in stock and available.
Perfect. We actually have another question that fits in with this. Do you make your own fruit fly cultures or use a pre-made one?
So we used to use a commercially available fruit fly media that's commonly available within Canada and the US. And I just discovered that just starts to get really expensive as you start keeping more frogs. So out of necessity, I started to develop our own fruit fly media. And over the years, I've been able to perfect it so that we only need a few cultures to feed a lot of frogs. So to answer your question, we have our own pre-made fruit fly media, which we also ship throughout Canada.
Doesn't it have like an apple cider vinegar base or something like that?
There's lots of different fruit fly cultures, media bases that you can use, and apple cider vinegar can be used, but we don't use apple cider vinegar. It's not needed.
We do use vinegar, though. We use just white vinegar, and boiling water is all you need to add to our mixture in order to make the fly culture.
And that's just to help combat mold and other bacteria.
That's good to know. And then you can continue to keep your culture going as long as you just keep putting more medium in it.
You can do that, but then other natural native species of mites that live in your homes anywhere in the world, grain mites are super common.
I hate grain mites. I hate them.
They live in our flour. They live in our cereals. Like you don't want to know how much is actually in our food, how much we're actually ingesting. And so they live in our home, whether you like it or not, whether you think of it or not. But a nice, moist, warm fruit fly culture is a perfect haven for fruit flies. So if you're not careful, for fruit flies and for mites, if you're not careful, you could actually start breeding mites.
Now, there's definitely some easy steps you can take to prevent mites in your fruit fly cultures. One of which is not using a fly culture for too long.
Yep.
That is the biggest thing that people don't do and don't understand. We, as Jungle Jewel Exotics, we have discovered that if you use your culture of flies popping just one time, rather than allowing it to repop several weeks in a row, keeps the mite population down to virtually nothing.
So you can culture fruit flies in anywhere from 14 to 28 days and feed them off to your frogs, and then toss your culture. The mites have a lifespan or have a life cycle of 32 days. So if you stay ahead of that curve, you won't have mites.
That's really good to know, actually.
And then you can also do various different ways of quarantining. One method is to keep your fruit fly culture just on a bed of water, just creating a moat. The mites can't swim, and if they can't get in, they won't breed. The other thing you could use is diatomaceous earth and create a moat out of that. That also kills the mites. So we are very successful now at being completely mite-free when it comes to our fruit fly culture. That wasn't always the case, though.
We did have a big problem at one point in time.
Yep.
I
And we had to
wonder
fix it.
if the diatomascus earth could work for essentially all mites, because I know that chicken keepers also use it for poultry mites as well.
Yep.
So I'm
Yep.
wondering if it could be used with snake mites somehow. Well, I suppose it could as like a preventative, but then you have diatomascus earth around all your enclosures.
Potentially, and you have to be super careful because that DE dust is so it's very caustic to our lungs. Do not want to be breathing that in. And that would also go for your frogs and all your reptiles.
So diatomaceous earth is the petrified remains of microscopic organisms that lived and still live everywhere. So they're calcified microscopic skeletons of microscopic animals. And the way that it works is it basically is extremely sharp. And we can't feel it on our skin, but we can, if it gets into your lungs, it can do damage to your lungs. And that's how it kills the bugs. It basically lacerates them in their joints and they bleed to death. So any mites and stuff like that, it doesn't work on larger bugs as well, but it's also used to kill ants and things like that. So I don't think it's recommended to use as something that you use to get rid of mites on a snake because of the inhalation issues.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But there are other natural alternatives to helping snakes with snake mites. Predatory mites, they can be kept in your enclosures, which should attack the snake mites as well.
I've always heard of people using them, but I've never seen them available anywhere.
They are hard to keep and maintain because the culture only lasts for a few weeks. So keeping it on a shelf to be able to sell, it's just not easy.
Yeah, it's more of a special order kind of thing.
Yeah. So, but it is starting to become a little bit more readily available in Canada.
That's good to know. We're a little bit behind in the times, but we're catching up.
Yeah. Well, 33 million people versus 333 million people. Not as big of a market.
No.
So should we show us some frogs?
Yeah, you guys want to see some frogs?
I want to see some frogs.
Obviously. That shouldn't even be a question.
All right.
What's the question?
No, it's a question. So the camera's going to get a little shaky. Just bear with me just for a moment. Hi. Do I still look pretty?
You're very pretty.
Oh, my God.
Oh, hello.
Uh-oh.
Uh-oh, what'd you do?
I didn't break it, did I?
I don't know.
Oh, no. Am I still here?
Where are we?
I can't see you. What did you do? Back to the live stream.
I don't know where it is. You got so many things open.
Uh-oh.
I'll be right back, everybody.
Here. Just going to click.
We lost them.
Yeah, they dropped the phone and then they were having technical difficulties.
Oh, okay. I have
There we go.
I have to go do a child thing downstairs. I'll be right back.
Yep.
I'm sorry, folks. Yeah. So, let's see. That up. Okay. Now, how do I change this?
With buttons and things.
Buttons and things. Sorry, folks. There we go.
There we go. That looks better.
I know, I've got a face for radio.
That's right. That's why we do these live streams, right?
Oh, almost there. So, back that up. Back that up. Hopefully I don't kick it.
Oh. And they're gone again. Lucas is pressing buttons he shouldn't have been pressing. And Keanu's not here either. Should do child things.
all
And
sorts
you're
of
back.
things. I'm sorry.
Press the wrong button, did you?
I'm gonna stop messing with buttons here and just get to the show here. So, thanks for bearing with me. Can I zoom in? Does that zoom in for you?
I
Or is it
didn't
just
see
me?
anything, in, but you're on solo screen, so it's just you now.
Gotcha. All right. Well, so here's some of our smallest frogs. I'm gonna open this up. They're trying to hide and run away. Oh.
My bad,
Right.
guys.
You see that little guy right there?
The little bit
yeah.
of orange.
Yeah. That's no bigger than your pinky nail.
Jeez. That's my kind of frog.
Like
It's
this container right here, that's actually the lid of an old 35 mil film canister. To give you an
that's
idea
cool.
of the size. That's our smallest one.
What's in that little canister?
So that canister simulates a tree hole so that if they want to breed, they'll actually lay their eggs in there.
Oh, cool. Is there water in it?
It's moist. There's another one.
Okay. Yep. It looks like there's one behind them too.
No, just leave.
No, you're right. There is two. It's the angle. I can't see. Yeah, you're right. So let me just get
It's
in.
behind that leaf.
Yeah.
Oh, it moved. It moved. Oh, those are those little Spider-Man ones, right?
They're similar to it, but not quite.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. We don't have these often available. These, if there was let's call it an expert level frog, these would be in there, and only because they're a little bit more difficult to breed, but their care is the same as everybody else. I don't know if that zooms in or not. So that's the smallest ones.
Every time I go to Pisces and I pass the dart frog tank, I try to play Spot the Frog.
Yeah. Oh, there's a frog out here.
I used to do that at J&J when they had them on the counter.
Here's a little guy right there. Oh,
It can be really hard.
see that guy?
They're so tiny. Oh my god! They're really cute. Like, they're super, super cute.
Mm-hmm. So let's see if I can open this and get a closer view. I know, I'm scary.
I am hippity hopping out of here, buddy.
There's another one.
Oh.
Right at you.
So, how many frogs do you guys usually keep per tank?
Most of the species are just one pair. With some of these smaller species, we're able to keep, and this is an 18-inch cube enclosure. And what do we got in here? 4, 5? Yeah. Whereas the smaller 12 by 12 by 18s, these are only holding a pair.
So that species you just saw, those are Ranitomea fantastica reticulated. Hello, where are you? There you are.
Oh, we're still can't get it to focus. No. Okay, let's find some other frogs. Some other smaller ones. Right by the rock. You see them right there?
Yeah.
I'm gonna go hide in the water.
At least they make it easy to see them when they run away.
Well, they're easy for us to spot, but when predators see them, usually probably a little farther away and not specifically looking for them.
Well, and the predators will see them as well and go, "Oh, right, that's the frog that tastes really bad. Don't eat it."
Yeah.
Oh, and he's gone.
It was there for a second.
We'll call that one the flash.
Oh, here we go. Here's ones that you love. These are the leucomelas.
Those
yellow.
guys.
And another thing nice about the Leucomelas, they have one of the nicest bulbs. They're pretty cool.
So as you can see here, we're trying to simulate the jungle, the rainforest. So we have live moss everywhere. We have small philodendrons in here, various different plants. And then in the back here, we've actually got Coco hut, which has a hole in it, and that's actually where they'll lay their eggs. Right there.
You guys also sell plants as well, don't you?
Yeah, pretty much all the plants you see, we can sell cuttings of.
I will be messaging you about some plants.
Yeah, just send us a message, ask for our plant availability list, and we'll happily sell it to you.
Nice and easy.
Here are what
That's
a lot of
big
people consider
boy.
the beginner frogs. Yeah, these are the Dendrobates tincturus azurus. Oh, one right here.
And this is kind of basically the one that you see set up everywhere when you see a dart frog enclosure set up.
Yeah. So there's actually one hiding in the cocoa hut right back here. Hello.
Oh, okay. You can kind of see him.
There he comes.
Yep. Popped right out under that leaf.
Actually, Dawn's just getting some flies for us here. We're going to put some into this tank, and they're going to want to eat it.
Oh, fantastic. We get a live feeding video, too?
Live feeding, but it's a lot cleaner than a snake live feeding.
I bet you these guys are awesome to watch eat.
When they eat, you're actually going to be able to hear their tongues click the flies. Like you'll hear a little snapping noise just as they catch them. There we go. Here Dawn comes with some flies. You want to place them right here. Just a few. Yeah, that's lots. All right, guys.
That looks like a few.
So frogs actually have a very high metabolism, and they eat a lot. Each of these frogs will eat between 30 to 50 flies per day.
That's quite a few. That's more than I thought they would eat.
Yeah. All right, so listen here. You hear the clicking of their tongue?
I don't think I can hear it.
No worries. I mean, it is fairly quiet, but you'll be able to see his tongue stick out as he grabs the fly, and they actually lean their body forward. There it is.
Go little frog! Get it! Yeah. Brandon, we need dart frogs.
I have enough going on as it is.
See, I have like a certain list of animals that I'm trying to buy right now, and only animals from that list, because I have like a plan, and I would like to stick to the plan. But these are so cool.
We're going to disrupt that plan.
Everything disrupts that plan.
Well, should we go see some other frogs?
Absolutely. Don't you guys got geckos too?
We do. We have a few different species of geckos. We've got morning geckos. Brand new to us and have started breeding are some viper geckos. And we've also got some Phelsuma clemeri, which are a species that's now endangered, heavily endangered, critically endangered in the wild. And they are CITES 1, so there's no more wild collections. And we're able to breed them in Canada.
That's awesome.
Yeah. So again, more flies. These are your green and black Aratus.
Native to Costa Rica.
Yeah. If you've ever been to Costa Rica, gone on a tour, these are probably the frogs that you'll see.
I have not, but I want to because there's snakes there that I want to see.
Mm-hmm.
That I recently discovered. But they have lots of cool animals in Costa Rica.
They do. I agree.
These guys are very good climbers, right? So you can see them just climb vertically up the walls when they need to.
Yeah.
They'll actually scale a tree.
That's cool. How high will they climb up to?
Trees in the rainforest get 60 feet tall.
Oh, 200.
200, yeah. The smaller species we were looking at, those small thumbnail ranotmeas, they will lay their eggs and then carry their baby tadpoles up to the top of the trees and deposit them in the bromeliads, which is plants like this. These plants actually grow in the top of the canopy. So 100, 200 feet up in the air.
Wow.
And then another Aratus species that's out is the blue blacks. That's how you add flies, right? Using that empty 32-ounce container with dusted fruit flies.
Kiana, take note. They're showing you how to do fruit flies.
I wasn't even here.
Yeah,
I was
That's okay. This is
downstairs.
recording, so you could watch that.
Yeah.
I can. I will. My dogs were trying to eat somebody. Kid's friend's mom just came to pick him up, and the dogs tried to eat him through the door. Oh my god, they're so cute and so hungry.
Another one that's actually kind of hard to come by, the campanas. These are a little bit shyer for us, but as they've gotten older and used to us, they've become actually quite bold. And
That's that plant I want.
oh, the Swiss cheese philodendron?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Monstera Edison.
Was it Monstera Adansoni?
Yep.
So is it, not only do you need to know lots of big words for frogs, you also need to know a lot of plant names.
You have to do Latin with plants because there's so many like that have the same name, or that
Latin
don't have culturally sensitive names.
Yeah, Latin is hard, and I suck at it.
We're not good at it either, but practice makes better.
Heck, I'm not even good at English.
Yeah, I English on a good day.
When we were lining up our episode with Dr. Mark Schurz,
You're never gonna let this down.
yeah, you are never living this down. Brandon knew that he was lived in Germany, and so he writes this big, huge, long message, and he's like, can you speak fluent English? While Brandon's message was complete and utter jargon.
Oh no!
It's like,
It's 3 o'clock in the morning. That's my
how dare you
excuse to
somebody
do it.
that can speak English if you can't even type English? It was a fantastic episode, though.
Oh yeah.
He's actually discovered a couple species of frogs lately.
Yeah, in Madagascar. Yeah, he's done a lot of the write-ups things.
Taxonomy reports.
That's
I
the
think.
stuff.
Yeah. The thing that I couldn't remember of.
Ooh, I like that frog.
So this is an Aratus species. These are Aratus bocas. So very very similar to the green-black, Costa Rican green-black, but these guys, they know the exact locale, and that would be bocas.
Which is an island.
Yeah. Frog eye view.
Did these guys have like little butt cheeks like other frogs do?
So, I had it there. So they've got frog butts. They have remnants of where the tail was, but they don't really have like butt cheeks.
Like you've seen the pictures of the frogs with butt cheeks, right?
Mm-hmm. Yep. Big fat
I just-
frogs.
I just think they're so funny.
So these are Dendrobates tinctoris yellowhead.
So is that a certain locale?
Well, it starts to blend that line of locale and morph. It is a locale.
But it's a real strong looking locale. Is that a satin pothos?
I
I think it's a pictus.
Yeah, that's
Okay.
Pictus. Right here.
Yep.
Yeah.
I know almost as much about plants as reptiles. So
That's okay. That's good.
a little more than most, but not much.
We struggle with it too.
I can identify a decent amount of them.
So I noticed you guys have a lot of exoteras. Is that the preferred enclosure you guys like?
So when it came for choosing a tank to do the breeding in, I wanted something that if a frog is on the right-hand side of the tank and wants to jump out, that I could control the animal by just opening up one of the doors. So that's where Exoterra was the preferred for us. But for a display tank, I actually prefer the Zoom Ed because it only has a single door and I don't get this seam.
And the front opening enclosures are the best for dart frogs.
Oh yeah, always front opening. Never the top stuff for us. So aquariums, you can do aquariums. So we have it here for our grow outs, but then you're always accessing from the top, and predators attack from the top down.
Yeah.
And it's just so much easier doing the front access.
Yeah.
It's especially if your enclosures are at eye level kind of thing. It's just a million times easier. You don't have to take it down to work on it.
Yeah. So these are Dendrobates tinctoris robertus, fairly rare in Canada. These guys here are F1 generation that we got out of the US. So you've got wild caught, and those that don't know, F1 is the first generation from wild caught, and then F2, second generation, F3, third generation, and so on and so forth. So these bloodlines here are very strong because they are one generation away from being wild caught.
Genetically diverse.
Genetically diverse, yeah. Their grandparents live in the jungle.
Parents.
No. Well, I suppose, yeah. Their parents were...
from the jungle.
From the jungle, yes. So there you go. Lots of frog butt right there.
Excuse me. Like the enclosures are absolutely stunning, and then the animals themselves are absolutely stunning. So it's easily, having an art piece in your house.
Absolutely, and super easy to maintain. I mean, this moss, I didn't plant a lot of it. It just spontaneously started to grow out of our background. And this tank here is probably 4 or 5 years old, and it's just slowly taking over the tank and just becoming this lush green. Whereas I have, say, this tank here, which is only 6 months old. There's not much moss. We planted some.
Yeah.
But this will eventually look like that.
That's fantastic.
Do you guys have screens at the top of your enclosures, or do you guys put plexiglass?
We do, yeah. So your Exoterra and Zoom Ed have screens that come with it, but not only will the humidity just evaporate out of that, the flies are so small they walk right out of the screens. So what we've done is we've replaced the screen with 3/4 of glass. We don't use plexi or Lexan because over time the humidity warps it, and then you can have frogs escaping, and that's not good. So glass does not warp. And then the front part, we make our own screens just out of supplies that you can get at a hardware store, and buy mesh that's it's really, really fine, and it's actually designed to keep no seams out. So you can find a micro mesh at the hardware store sometimes and install that, which then allows us to be able to install our misting system directly in there without having to drill any glass. And I can keep everything on a mister, on a timer, lush and green at all times. Very automated.
Do they need UVB at all?
So the jury's out on that. Do they need it? The answer is no. But could they benefit from low amounts of it, say a 5 UVB bulb, a 5 watt UVB bulb? The answer is yes, right?
Okay.
They do. They are diurnal, so they are hopping around in the jungle. But if you've been to the jungle, the canopy is fairly dark, very dim. You get a very filtered light that comes down, but some of that is small amounts of UVB. But they do not require it for calcium uptake like other reptiles do.
So do you use D3 calcium then on the fruit flies?
Yeah, actually, so the vitamins we have a ton of different vitamins in there, including D3.
Okay. So
these guys need, so they eat the insects and arthropods that live in the jungle, which eat the plants. The plants actually have all the nutrition in them. So each little bug in the wild is gut loaded and it gets into the frog. But in captivity, you'd feed them fruit flies. Fruit flies by themselves are not very nutritious. Fruit flies like the hamburger of insects. It tastes good, but doesn't do much for you.
Okay.
So we use a high quality vitamin. So we actually import this from Holland. This was designed by frog keepers in Holland, and we are the Canadian distributor of Dendrocare.
That's cool.
And this is one of the very few all-in-one vitamins that you can feed to this. So it has all the vitamins and the minerals that the frogs need to be healthy in the proper ratios.
No,
You can blend other stuff together. So there's other brands out there where they'll have the calcium, the various different vitamins. You can mix it together, but one of the things that's lacking in a lot of meat vitamins is vitamin A. So you'd have to add it. This actually has vitamin A in it.
does that supplement work for all species of dart frog or just certain ones?
Pretty
Cool.
much all the different species of dart frogs, and some geckos too. And Dendrocare recently started making something called Felsucare, which is for your day geckos,
Okay.
which we also have. These are Dendrobates tinctoris lefume.
Now, these guys,
Those look neat.
Yeah, they're actually one of the largest dart frogs.
That's cool.
So this is a cocoa hut that over the years the moss has been growing on it.
Yeah.
It's nice and plush. I love that. Oh, hello.
It just has such a nice aesthetic to it.
I thought that was a rock.
Another Dendrobates tinctoris. This is powder blue. Now, powder blue and powder gray are the same species, but this is where some line breeding has happened. Hybridization, if you will, but then it became acceptable. So this one here that we're looking at is, well, it's technically a powder blue. That is the species. Oh, no, that is the powder blue. Back there's the powder gray. So there's a slight difference. Hello. In the back legs, you see how this is a light baby blue.
Mm-hmm.
And if we can see this one here is a gray.
Move forwards. Good boy. He listens.
Oh yeah, you can see the color difference there.
Yep. It's not like crazy, but like it's definitely a visual difference even for us.
Yep. So same species, but this is where natural hybridization has happened. And in the wild, there's people doing studies right now with natural hybridization, especially in the Ranitomea species. There's lots of that going on. So new species are being created with the hybridization, but naturally. This gives you a better color, view of the blue.
Yep. So is that another of the powder grays in the back?
Correct. Yeah.
They kind of have like xanthic coloring.
Oh, I guess, yeah. A little bit. Where's the color? Oh, right here.
I like how they just like move right when I'm like, where is this little bugger?
those are red galops.
Yeah, those are super neat looking too.
Mhm.
They're so interesting to watch hunting.
So the other thing about frogs is that they have to eat live prey. They cannot be fed a frozen insect or a dead insect. They can't be fed a kibble or a bit. You have to feed them live food. And for some people that get a little bit squeamish about that, that makes these not a suitable pet for them. And that's one of the things that you have to research and understand before you decide that you want to have frogs or reptiles in your home is, can you handle the food that they eat?
Oh,
Here's another
like,
one.
can you access the food that they need on a regular basis because shipping's expensive? See, where I live, our local pet store is inside the Home Hardware. You can get 3-week crickets, 5-week crickets, mealworms, and superworms.
But if you needed pinhead crickets to feed a smaller animal, I bet you can't get it.
Nope, cannot.
But that's the cool thing about keeping dart frogs is if you can master keeping the flies, which isn't that difficult, the frogs are easy to keep.
I just need to learn how to get the flies in the enclosures and not all over my counters.
We'll show you that here in a moment. Here is another species, Dendrobates tinctoris oyapoc. So these are actually some of the smallest tinctor species.
I like those ones.
So I show them the what? Where are the eggs? And the okay. So why do we keep the cocoa huts in here? It serves as a hide so that they can feel secure and run away to hide. But it also, that's where they're going to want to lay their eggs, and it makes it easy for us to be able to collect them. So underneath the cocoa hut, we put a plastic petri dish. And if I remove the hut, set this over here, excuse me. You can see the petri dish. I pull out the petri dish. Frog eggs.
Cool.
That's this right here.
See, I bred axolotls when I had them, and the embryos would be different colored based on what morph you'd get.
Oh, that's interesting. I didn't know that.
Yeah, so if your embryo is white, you're gonna have an albino, and if it's black, you're gonna have either a wild type or like a melanistic.
Oh, cool.
And it's amazing because you can watch amphibians form inside that, protective jelly coating.
Yes. Yeah. Same thing with the frogs. You can, well, amphibians in general. Yeah, you see that too.
They're just everywhere. It's crazy because you don't notice how many there are at first, and then all of a sudden stuff starts moving around.
Yep. This tank here has a species I call Plasticus facus.
Some of your displays for that.
Yeah, so these guys here, when you come to the reptile expos and you see these live tanks, you'll see these frogs sitting in the tank, and you're like, wow, how do you train them so well? I'm like, well, the Plasticus facus is actually indigenous to Malaysia, China. They're very easy to keep. Their requirements are very low maintenance. You don't need any special lighting, no special misting. These guys can handle dry or wet conditions. Yeah.
And they live a very long life.
They're indigenous to Toys R Us and the dollar store.
They're imported from Taiwan, Malaysia, and China. Oh, geckos, right. So we've shown all the frogs. Some of these geckos are going to be harder to see. So can you keep geckos and frogs together? And the answer almost always is no, with very, very minor or very few exceptions. One of those exceptions is mourning geckos. And if you look right here,
You get a
have
little
eggs.
egg cluster.
Yeah.
So are mourning geckos all parthenogenic?
99% of them, yes. So parthenogenesis. So for those that don't know, parthenogenesis is a species of animal that does not require a male and a female to copulate or to fornicate or to make babies. So what happens is the females will actually clone themselves, lay 2 eggs that are clones of the female. But every now and again, it's a very small percentage, one of those will be a male. And that's just enough to keep the wild diversity diverse.
And the benefit of parthenogenesis is, in order to colonize a new environment, you only need one.
Yep. Yeah. Mourning geckos have been highly successful on islands and different areas in the world because they can be. Let's see if we've got one here. Okay. I don't know if you can see it, but it's right on the nozzle, right here.
Oh yeah.
I don't know how clear that is. I can't see that.
Yeah, it's not very clear, but you can kind of
Right.
see the outline.
Yeah. So I was saying that they're able to colonize different islands because during a tropical storm, a tree might fall, which has mourning geckos on it. The tree falls into the ocean. It then floats to the next island. And now you have mourning geckos on 2 islands.
That's cool.
Yeah. And then the other species of gecko that we have are Phelsuma clemeri. There's one up there. Hard to see. These guys can be a bit skittish, so let's see if they'll stay here.
See if they stay for the big inanimate object that's coming their way.
Oh, that looks neat.
Oh yeah, those are cool.
Don't breathe.
They're actually pretty inquisitive, so if they sit here, you might come close to the camera, or you might just run away.
See, that's what I like about my Strophers. They don't care if I stick my camera in their face.
Mm-hmm.
But I think that's because they're like multi-generational captive bred.
Yep. So interesting about these Phelsuma clemeri are native to Madagascar. There are only 2 small remote sections on the island of Madagascar that have these guys. Each section's only about 200 kilometers total of bamboo forest, which unfortunately are being burned down to make way for palm oil. So it is very possible that in our lifetime, these animals will be extinct in the wild.
There are some conservation groups in Madagascar that portion of my hognose sales will be going towards some of that conservation efforts, because I want to see some of the wild species that I keep in my house out in the wild.
Yeah, and I think anybody who works with and breeds animals and anybody that's purchasing these animals owes it to the conservation efforts around the world to donate to them. If you can't go to the rainforest and actually participate in the conservation, you can research different groups that are doing really, really good work, that are not corrupt, that are being policed, that are saving the rainforest and the plant and animals in those areas. And a couple of those, like I said earlier, we're working with one called Save the Choco, which specializes in the Choco rainforest, which is probably one of the most important rainforests you've never heard of. That spans from Colombia, Ecuador, into Costa Rica, and it's actually a major migratory path for various different birds, bats, big cats, and other animals.
Yeah, and what a lot of people don't realize is a lot of these conservation efforts, they may focus on larger, cute, fluffy animals, but all that conservation of the land purchasing and protection also takes into account for all the reptiles and amphibians that inhabit those areas.
Yeah. Another great one to look at is the Rainforest Trust. And this is a very big, important one to support. They actually purchase an incredible amount of rainforest. They help a lot of different organizations like Save the Choco. And often they'll help match donations or double up donations. Little guy right there.
That one is called Bufega Familio El Dorado.
He just looks like a leaf.
Sorry, he's on the leaf. It's the golden thing on the leaf. Looking right at
I was looking at an actual leaf. Now I see it. I was looking at the leaf above it. We never said I was smart on this podcast.
So the Save the Choco program, I know you guys do a lot of stuff with that. So what can the general public do that are buying from you do to help that?
So one of the things we were doing is we were donating. We have a species of frog, which I'm going to show here in a moment, the Boana picturata, and we are one of 5 individuals that we know of outside of Ecuador that have had these guys breeding. There's a little frog right there. And what we were doing is 50% of what a person paid for the frog, we were donating 100% of that to Save the Choco. And then we also increase our donations. We do a minimum donation per year of 1,000 US, so about 1,300 Canadian, to Save the Choco, which is enough to buy 2.5 hectares of land every year, which then gets matched by the Rainforest Trust. So our $1,000 US donation becomes $2,000, which then becomes
5 hectares.
4. Yeah, that's exactly it.
That's awesome. You know, that adds up, especially because that's 5 hectares just from your contribution.
Yeah.
And whatever the people donate to us too. We do take donations in
How much have you guys raised so far for Save the Choco? Because I believe you guys have been doing this for a little while.
Yeah, we've donated so far $3,000, 3,000 Canadian. No, sorry, no, 3,000 American to save the Choco. Because I keep forgetting about the conversion rate.
That's a fair chunk.
Yeah, and it doesn't have to be. Sorry, go ahead.
Any amount helps.
That's exactly it. You can go to our website right now, junglejewelexotics.com, and you can actually find Save the Choco. You can read a little bit more about that, and you can donate. And we're sending 100% of that donation directly to Save the Choco.
That's awesome.
This frog butt right here is the one.
Okay.
It's right here.
Yeah, those are cool.
So this is nicknamed the Golden Nugget Tree Frog, or Mbura Tree Frog in his homeland. That's a big female. Got 2 males hiding right here.
Yeah, that's super cool. Well, we really appreciate you showing us all these frogs and giving us a rundown about frogs. There's definitely a lot more that we could go into depth about them.
I'm quite sure we could all talk forever. It's not like the group of us have ever stood outside of Petland for like 2 hours talking in the cold.
After we just talked for another 2 hours.
Oh, they disappeared again.
Yeah, Lucas pressed the wrong button again. But yeah, there's a lot to do about frogs. I believe there's a new frog podcast that's coming out. I'm not sure if it's out or not.
You're hogging the whole screen, and you're too ugly to be full screen.
Just beautiful. But yeah, I believe there's a new frog podcast that's coming out because there's a lot of species of frogs and lots of things to talk about frogs.
See, there's a monitor podcast coming out.
Yep.
I really got to stop mashing those buttons. I'm sorry, folks.
It's all right.
I have big man hands, and I button mash everything.
Well,
I get it.
We appreciate you coming on and giving us a slight rundown of frogs because there's a lot more to it. So we'll have to do another episode and go farther in depth.
Yeah, we can certainly talk for many, many more hours about specific cares and all the nuances that go there. We haven't even shown you the eggs and tadpole rearing stations.
Or the baby.
Oh my god!
Or the baby viper geckos.
Should we show the baby viper?
You guys want to see some baby viper geckos?
Oh yeah,
some baby viper geckos. Yeah. Does Kiana want to see less than common geckos? Yes.
So I'm gonna try to turn this again. Hopefully, I don't kick us out.
Mash the one button, not all the buttons.
I think what it is I'm actually hitting the wrong button.
There you go.
I've got it, but then from here. Oh, what do I click? Do I click this button here? There we go. So here is all our different tadpole raising stations. All of our fruit flies that we have to feed all the frogs.
How many fruit flies a week do you think you go through?
So we make 80 cultures a week, and each culture will hold thousands of flies. So would it be shy to say that we have 1 million flies at any time? Yeah, that's definitely a possibility.
Wow.
So, baby vipers.
Now I understand how to handle those stupid bugs.
So, viper geckos are native to Pakistan. Look at these.
I don't think that's small enough.
There we go. So these are the babies.
Oh my god.
Get the light a little bit closer. Yeah, these guys here are maybe a week old.
They're so tiny.
Oh, some of these hatched yesterday. Okay, so these are the youngest of them.
Yeah, those are tiny.
So in compared to like from fingertip to certain knuckle, how big are those? Okay, never mind.
How about we put it on
Questions me.
fingertip to certain
Oh my
knuckle?
god, that's like to your first knuckle. Wow. See, that's
There it
like that's how big those Strophers babies were that I was talking about.
We're not going to stress them out any further. But yeah,
You
my
breathe
pinky
too
knuckle.
hard and you'll break it.
Now, Don's actually going to get us an adult, and we'll put them in here just so you can see the size difference of an adult and the babies.
They're actually, as adults, they're very handled.
Hold that in hand. There's an adult right there.
Wow.
Kind of a similar body structure to leopard geckos.
Yeah,
But
and almost
obviously
identical
much
hair, too.
smaller.
Now they get their name, the viper gecko, because of the way their scales are. So we look at the tail right here. If you guys can see that,
Oh yeah. That's cool.
they look like viper scales.
Yeah.
And they're pretty easy to handle. I like the babies are pretty jumpy, but the adults, as you can see, are pretty chill.
Yeah, my Strophers are like that. They'll just kind of like sit on your finger and just like kind of walk around. They won't bolt on you.
Mhm.
I think the small geckos are just so underrated. Because people just want something like handleable, right? But there's so much like beauty and stunning animals that people miss out.
Also, some smaller species of geckos are also like $800, and that really deters a lot of people. But sometimes their care is super easy.
Okay, well, my geckos weren't $800, so everyone should get some Strophers, but they are a couple $100.
But they're more than the average gecko.
And less than my monitor.
I'm just going to change the camera here.
Let's see if we can do this successfully this time. Oh, hi!
We did it.
Well, no, I can get this far. It's the next stage. Ah.
Awesome, guys. Well, thanks for showing us majority of your collection and giving us the rundown of frogs. If people want to find you, where can they do that?
So lots of different ways you can catch us. Wow, there we go, all sorts of fail. You can find us at www.junglejewelexotics.com. That's our website. That you'll find supplies and different stories about the frogs. Some of the care sheets are up there now.
Which I currently have at the bottom of the page.
Thank you. You can also find us on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, YouTube. We have channels on all those different platforms, with Facebook and Instagram being our most popular. So please give us a like, share our content, and tell the world about how awesome these frogs are.
Absolutely.
And go to the website and donate to Save the Choco, because
Which is also down at the bottom, everybody. I hope I spelt it all right.
Save Choco, yes.
All right. I did it.
Perfect.
And
Awesome.
everybody knows where to find us. You can Google us and find us on your favorite podcast streaming platform, or on Facebook, Instagram, and all that fun stuff. Don't forget to check out Pet Paradise and use our affiliate code to save 10%. We get a little bit of kickback from that, so that's fantastic to work with them. Yeah. And don't forget to
There's
grab
our
life.
website. What was that, Dawn?
Thanks a bunch, everybody, for watching. We appreciate your support. Absolutely.
This was a great episode.
Absolutely.
Awesome. Well, anybody that's still watching, be sure to share this so other people can watch this later on.
Yeah. And don't forget to grab life by the hemipenes.
Both of them.